Okay, so this is week 7, work in industry. This is on housekeeping, it's profession for this week. Also going to get into work hardening or work conditioning, what that's all about. You're going to be using a lot of that stuff on your final exam. Going to get into the RULA assessment, a standardized assessment that we'll also be using on the final exam. This is part 1. Focuses pretty much on the work conditioning part of it. Learning objectives, work conditioning. It's kind of like work conditioning is the third leg or the third part of what we've been kind of leading up towards. It's really aimed towards maximizing somebody's ability to get back to work. It's the final leg about getting them back to work. It involves physical capacity, productivity components, safety awareness is a big part of it as you're reconditioning them to get back to work. Um, it's aimed at activity analysis. You're really breaking down a specific job and involves simulating that job as much as you can in the clinic. You see these pictures, they're simulating different parts of a carpentry job, shoveling and the lifting, general conditioning, work-related tasks. And when I say it's that third leg, last week we did the functional capacity assessments, which is a standardized assessment of what a person is capable of doing. Job analysis, which is specific analysis, what they need to do in a specific job. That's what you do. That's what you're doing with your assignment that's due on the 11th. You're doing a job analysis of your specific job that you've chosen. And then work conditioning, it's the program to get them back to work. You'll be doing an assignment around work conditioning as well. Okay, work conditioning, it involves very much a team approach out there in practice. You're usually working very closely with the case manager. Usually it involves workers' compensation. So you have a case manager with workers' compensation, usually a lot of money involved. So you're giving them just regular updates. Sometimes it's just a weekly update. Did the person show up for therapy this week? How did they progress? What was their response? All that sort of stuff. Can involve even a psychologist, a vocational counselor, a job counselor, occupational physicians. These are physicians that specialize in ergonomics, back to work kind of stuff. Could be a chiropractor, could be a PT. Again, those 3 steps are working towards what they can do, which is the functional capacity eval, what they need to do, the job analysis, and how you're going to get them there. That's the work conditioning part. Again, these pictures of a work conditioning program clinic. This guy was obviously a fireman. He's wearing all the stuff he needs to wear, working the hoses, that sort of stuff. Whatever it is they do on their job, they're trying to simulate that as closely as possible. There's a good one up in the county PT, I think, and there was an OT that was working up there for a while, and he had a lot of people that are working in a potato factory, and there was this conveyor belt where they had to pick out the rocks or something with the potatoes, and he built a conveyor belt in this clinic, had them bending over, simulating picking the potatoes and the rocks and that sort of stuff. So you're really trying to get as close to the real thing as you possibly can. And these again are the steps involved, the FCEs and the job analysis we talked about last week. And this is the third thing, the big thing this week, the work conditioning, getting them back to work, the goals based on job demands, abilities. Clear boundaries are a big part of this. 3 strikes rule, as in if you miss 3 sessions or 3 visits, you're out, you're kicked out of the program. It's very much the mentality of this is your job now. You need to show up every day and do this. And it can be a 5-day a week kind of thing. Insurance will pay for it, the workers' comp will pay for it. And you're assessing their behaviors. So let's, for example, say it's Isabel from The Sims last week. If you remember, she hated her job. She wanted to be, for most of those Sims you're doing, she wanted to be a baker, not a clerk. So would she be giving full effort in a work conditioning program? Would she be faking it and not giving her full effort? Part of what you'll be doing as a therapist is assessing that. Is she giving that full effort? And the case manager and the team would be asking you, and there's different ways of assessing that, different assessments that kind of clue you into what's really going on with the patient. Work conditioning treatment plan. This is what you're going to be devising for your clients, for your job that you're choosing, on your next assignment for your job analysis stuff. And on the final exam, you're going to do that as well. Work conditioning treatment plan. What does it include? It includes these 5 different parts. Targeting a specific job demands in terms of the flexibility, the range of motion, strength, endurance, in a graded fashion. That's a big part of it. It has to be graded. Starting at one level, where they're kind of beat up and sore, and as they get better, you're going to get them stronger and stronger and more flexible, and they'll get greater endurance. You're building them up gradually over a series of levels. Cardiopulmonary endurance is a big part of this. People get deconditioned pretty quickly when they're out of work, especially if they're injured. Body mechanics education is also a big part. Tool education, adaptive strategies, adaptive tool education as you're reconditioning them. Let's say, for example, with this shoveling thing, she's instructing him in the proper body mechanics and how to do it. Maybe they have a special tool, special shovel. Talked about the lighter shovel for shoveling the ice last week in The Sims. And the goal is for them to do it without you saying anything. So initially you're giving them all kinds of cues. You, the therapist, are cueing them the body mechanics, all that sort of stuff. By the 4th level, they're doing it without any cues at all. They have good posture, good body mechanics. They're demonstrating that they're ready to go back to work and to work safely without getting injured. And then the 5th thing, again, is just that coordination, constant coordination, a lot of documentation back and forth with the case manager. These are the 7 components of a work conditioning plan. These are the things you have to hit on. We'll be doing these in The Sims pretty quickly, not this week, the following week. And again, you'll be doing these on your final exam. You'll have a case, and you'll have to put together a work conditioning program. Some people take right to this. Other people kind of struggle with this. You really have to kind of think, and you really have to kind of break it down. And you really have to use activity analysis, that stuff that you learned way back, and just break that job down into components and try to simulate it best you can. This is why it really helps to have a job that has some meat to it versus just standing and not doing much all day. So it involves these 7 things. Activity analysis, like I said, breaking it down. Simulating the job as closely as you can. A general full body exercise program. They may be getting a more specific exercise program with PT or something else. Grades over 4 levels. We're going to do it over 4 levels. Regular use of modification, strategies. So they're using these strategies, these adaptive tools, as they recondition in the clinic. So they're wearing that special welding helmet. They're using that special welding tool, all that sort of stuff. They're practicing with it as they do this conditioning thing. And again, the aim is towards they're able to maintain themselves, their posture, their body mechanics, take those regular ergo breaks without you cueing them to doing them, taking the break, doing the right stretch, sort of thing. By level 5, you usually have them back to work in some capacity, in maybe just a few hours, maybe even doing a different job. Some of you talked about Isabel doing the baker job part of the time, maybe next as she went back to kind of save her body, that sort of thing. So you kind of think, how are you going to modify this job when they go back to level 5? They're back on the job, but it's restricted, so to speak. This is a template. This may help you. I'm trying to put these together in the lab when we do it for The Sims and when you do it for your assignment and stuff. You can see how it progresses over these 5 levels, and kind of think easy to harder. Think generally you're sitting, then you're standing. Sitting obviously is easier than standing. And then you're doing a light exercise, moderate, heavy. And just think of simple ways to grade it. So again, sitting to standing, and then the time, 5 to 10 minutes sitting and 5 to 10 minutes standing. It's a step up. Then you're doing more activities, 3 to 5 activities, 10 to 15 minutes. You're increasing the time. You're increasing the time in the aerobics every time. Maybe you're increasing the time in the reps of the range of motion. And then you're thinking, this is the hard part, thinking of activities that best simulate, the job that you can do in the clinic. And there's a lot of different things you can do. This is where you have to kind of be creative to a degree. And level 5, they're still doing their exercise program, taking their breaks and stretches, but they're back on the job to a degree with restrictions. Okay, so that is part